If you failed one run, one swim, one obstacle course, then you could do that.
Jocko Willink was a leader in the military turned motivational speaker. He speaks about how war changed his life and how it showed him both the worst and the best of human life. He talks about what he learned in training and how he was able to apply it in the field and ultimately become successful. He tells and trains others on how not to be emotional in high-pressure situations. Smart decisions don't happen when you're scared. He also talks about police training today and how they need continual training off the field and given time to decompress. His military background has given him applicable information to social and political situations today. He also uses his knowledge to motivate students. He says that becoming an avid reader helps you to communicate, and communication makes effective leaders.
And then you have other, we call them evolutions, but you have underwater knot tying, life-saving.
War is a nightmare. War is awful. It is indifferent and devastating and evil. War is hell. But war is also an incredible teacher, a brutal teacher, and it teaches you lessons that you will not forget. In war, you are forced to see humanity at its absolute worst, and you are also blessed to see humanity in its most glorious moments. War teaches you about sorrow and loss and pain, and it teaches you about the preciousness and the fragility of human life. And in that fragility, war teaches you about death. But war also teaches you about brotherhood and honor and humility and leadership.
If you want to get someone to be under control and you can't choke them, you know what you have to do? You have to hit them in the head with a baton 7 times. And you got to risk giving them brain damage, permanently injuring them. If people know what they're doing, I mean, obviously, if people know what they're doing, we'll put a choke on. They'll wake up, they'll be cuffed. We're all good. You get a young kid that's coming through training for the first time and they go into a room and they're getting shot with simunition bullets, or there's someone yelling and screaming, or we'd put Arabic women coming walking out of rooms. We'd have people get blown up with wounds. We would do this to them over and over again. So they realize, okay, I just got to relax. I got to take a step back. I got to detach from this situation so I can process what's happening and I can make a good decision. Because as I said earlier, no one is making a good decision when they're panicked, when they're freaked out, when they're scared. You can't just train somebody one time. It's like ring rust. You know, you can't just train somebody one time and, oh, now I don't need to train anymore. No, you need to do continuous training. So that fact right there, if we want to help the police through these situations, we need to invest more money into them. We need to get them better training.
Readers are leaders. I was in the military and I was a leader in the military, and when I got out of the military, I started working with business leaders. And the successful leaders in the military and the successful leaders in business, they read. Why does reading make you a better leader? Well, when you read a lot, it makes you a better writer, and it makes you a better speaker. And when you're a better writer and a better speaker, that makes you a better communicator. And the better you can communicate, the better you can lead. Even your borough president, Jim Otto, he's your leader. He's the leader of Staten Island, and he's a real big-time reader. He actually read the first book I wrote and reached out to me to help give a hand with this Readers Are Leaders Challenge. I'm happy to do so. I hope you enjoy the book that I wrote, Way of the Warrior Kid, and I hope you enjoy all the other books that you read.
When I started taking the lessons that I had learned growing up in the SEAL teams and applying them and seeing how they worked and learning, either solidifying them or sometimes making small adjustments to them. So all the principles that I ended up talking about and I ended up writing about, that I ended up employing when I was in Task Unit Bruiser, all those had kind of been solidified somewhat when I was in my first combat deployment as a platoon commander in Baghdad. So the things that I talk about all the time, cover and move, you absolutely have to cover and move. Keeping things simple, prioritize and execute, decentralized command. I hadn't quite turned those into the solid principles that they eventually became when I started teaching them to the young SEALs, but that's where I learned them. And so those are the lessons. Those lessons were really clear, and I learned them, I learned them from the Vietnam SEALs that raised me in the SEAL teams. Those guys that taught me the initial things. I mean, I've had a guy on my podcast named Roger Hayden. He's the guy that taught me cover and move.
And there was other guys that were saying it, but he kind of explained, hey, here's what's going on, because he had been to Vietnam, multiple deployments, and he had been in a lot of firefights, and he explained to me, this is what's gonna happen. And I was listening, and I remembered it. So then when I was on deployment, my first combat deployment, and saw those things unfold and realized, okay, this is exactly what he was talking about. And so it solidified those things in my mind, for sure.
Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.